And ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are now going to begin our College Board of Trustees debate. And so I'd like to welcome our four candidates. We have three positions open. We have three incumbents who are running for re-election and one challenger. And we'll be hearing from all four of them this afternoon. So without further ado, let me introduce our four candidates: Susan Aminoff, Margaret Quinones-Perez, Rob Greenstein Rader, and Brian O'Neill. So thank you all for coming, and hopefully they'll all pop up on your Zoom screen once they start talking. So I wanted to start by asking this question. You know, every trustee who gets elected uses their position in different ways to benefit SMC. What do you see as the role of a trustee at Santa Monica College? And what do you bring to that role that's different from anyone else who currently serves? And Peter, these are 1-minute responses for this entire so Susan, let's begin with you.
Can you repeat that? That was kind of long.
Absolutely. The question is, what do you see as the role of a trustee of SMC, and what do you bring to that role that's different from anyone else who currently serves? And now you're muted.
You mentioned my name first, John, so I'm just going to jump in.
Yes.
And I hope I'm available on the screen now.
Yes.
So the role of a trustee, I think we have several masters to serve, but the most important master that we serve are the citizens, the voters of Santa Monica and Malibu, who ask us to preserve the jewel college of the community, Santa Monica College. So we serve the voters, but as well, we serve the students, faculty, and staff to make sure that we preserve the fiscal health and the environmental health of the college. So that would be my answer as to what the job of the trustee is. And what I bring to it is the fact that I'm a community college professional. I have been either a faculty member or a trustee for the last 20 years, either one of those two roles at any given time. And so I feel that I understand the needs of the community. My children went to time. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And let's go to the next candidate. Anyone want to jump in? Okay, then I'll call on Margaret.
For me, the trustee has two primary roles: the hiring of the president and the budget of the college. And the budget of the college is a reflection of the values of the board members that are on it. What makes me, I don't even see myself as different because I have my other colleagues that carry a similar background, is that I have 32 years of experience as a faculty member. And at one time I was a dean, which was very painful. It was better being a faculty member. And I served in that capacity in in every kind of committee that community colleges has. I understand the operation of a community college from a faculty perspective, a management perspective, and more importantly, a student. I'm an alumni of Santa Monica College. But finally, the most important thing is that I'm the first Latina that ever served on that board. And I'm not hesitant to speak about that, because more than 50% of the students at Santa Monica College are Latino or of Latino descent. And they need to have a mirror there.
Time.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to Rob Rader.
Thank you. I'm Rob Greenstein Rader. Many of you know me, but if you don't, I'd like to just answer the question that John put, which is, I think you really bring three things as a trustee. One, you bring your values. And I've always been very proud as, 20-year member of this club to bring our Democratic Party values to Santa Monica College, as do the other incumbents, Susan Aminoff and Dr. Margaret Quinones-Perez. The other thing that you bring that really is the trustee's job is your judgment, and that's really based on your background. I too have taught at Pepperdine Law School as an adjunct professor since 2004-2005 school year. And there's a joy to helping students become who they're intended to be. And that's actually the slogan of Santa Monica College, is changing lives through excellence in education. And we've really stood by that, and whatever decisions we make are about that. And that's the third real role of the trustee, is to hold the institution accountable in how it spends money, as Margaret mentioned. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Rob. And now we'll go to Brian O'Neill. Brian?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. I am the only non-incumbent running. I am the candidate of change. What I bring that's different is I'm a frontline professor right now. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I'm teaching at Long Beach City College. I'm a history professor. So I'm online right now. I am in the trenches right now as a full-time instructor. Besides my professional experience in colleges and universities, I am a family man here in the Pico district. I'm a committed resident to Santa Monica and to our overall community, and very interested in improving the relations between the college and the neighboring communities, the residents of Santa Monica. And as far as being a trustee, the most important aspect of that is trust. That's in the name, right? Board of Trustees. They trust the board to make judicious decisions as how the college serves both the faculty, staff, and students at the college, but also the larger community of Santa Monica and Malibu. And if elected, that will be my #1 priority. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And now we'll go to next question. As we look around the economic landscape, we know that budget cuts are on the horizon. How will you approach that process with the lens toward equity and closing the achievement gap? And let's go to Margaret first on this one.
First of all, I'd like to say that the college has always kept equity as our #1 priority. And we have shown that if you look at our budget and look at the programs that are on campus, it's in there. We have our Black Collegian program, we have our Latino Center, and we now have our Student Equity Center. One of the ways that I believe is that you cut the budget and you cut away what's further away from the students and the employees. I believe people say, well, those small amounts, well, small amounts build to big amounts. And so my belief is in this hard times, you need to cut the budget where it does not affect student outcomes, where it does not affect the employment of the people that work at the college, and where it will not keep students from being successful, whichever way they define that.
Okay, thank you. And now let's go to Rob Rader.
Thank you.
Time.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Wow, that was too quick on me.
Right. Go ahead.
We adopted budget principles years ago, and we refreshed them in the last year because we knew that there was the possibility of cuts coming even before this the disasters that have happened to us this year. And the primary goal is to keep those cuts away from the classroom and to protect our full-time employees. And as we have done in the budget that we have tentatively adopted and that we're going to be re-looking at in September, is making sure that we have as few layoffs and protect the students and protect the professors and protect the frontline employees that we have. We negotiated with our CSEA, with our classified employees, and agreed with them on how we would implement cuts to protect all of their jobs so that we could keep the institution functioning. In terms of making sure that there's equity, we did an emergency buy of laptop computers as soon as the COVID crisis hit, and we distributed those to all students so that needed a computer. In fact, we did such a good job, we've been making sure that any excess computers we had were shared with other community colleges in the area, such as Allen Hancock College. So our first principle has been to draw down on our reserve, to make sure that those cuts stayed away from the classroom and protected our employees.
Thanks, Rob. And now let's go to Brian.
Never fun to be in on a governing board when in an era of budget cuts, and that's certainly what we're in now. I would ensure that those cuts were as minimal as possible to the faculty, staff, and student services at the college, and look for ways in the budget, the overall budget. It's an enormous budget, $650 million all total each year, and look for ways to streamline things, make more effective the delivery of instruction at SMC. And as far as just ensuring equity during these times, I'm a big proponent of the ideas in Minding the Obligation Gap, a collection of writings about how faculty and staff take it as their obligation to ensure student equity across the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And now we'll close with Susan.
Hi.
Okay.
Susan, can't hear you.
Susan, you're muted.
You can unmute me. Okay.
Can't hear you.
I'm going to have two themes to answer this question. The first is equity in the time of COVID. It sounds almost like a song, but what we're looking at when we look at equity in the time of COVID is that we realize in no uncertain terms that there are students who simply do not have access to the internet and technology the way in which other students do. And so the college has embarked on several avenues to try to correct that. Rob mentioned one of them, a very important way in which we try to address this by giving out Chromebooks, but we also turned the Bundy parking lot into a place with reliable internet so that students could come and actually complete their coursework. You know, there are many of our students do not live in situations where they have reliable technology at home. They live with many brothers and sisters in close quarters. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm out.
Okay, and so now I want to go to a related topic, but I want to switch over to international students who make up a large part of the college's revenue. But due to the pandemic, a lot of them are not returning. The first question on this topic is, what's the college going to do to make up for that revenue loss in order to avoid the really tough budget cuts? And let's go to Rob first.
Well, you've hit on it. There's a funding gap. You know, there's a hole in our budget where there normally was revenue coming in from international students. Thankfully, students can take classes even if they're registered online and not physically here. And that was very important to us. And we were preparing to also join the lawsuits when the decision was reversed. So we were very active in trying to protect those students. That being said, you know, the same issues that we were talking about in terms of our budget cuts, so we've had to make those cuts at the same time in terms of new revenue generation. Look, a couple years ago, we were brainstorming on how do we enter the digital age. And I used to speak and talk about how Khan Academy was going to eat us for lunch. And for good or bad, and largely it's been a very difficult transition, we are now part of the digital age and there's no going back. It's never going to go back to 90-10 in favor of in-person. And because of our reputation, we're going to have a lot of enormous ability to market to other students and to expand our online presence. And that sort of innovation is going to be key for us to replace those international students.
Thank you, Rob. And now let's go to Brian.
I would say that the loss of revenue from international students not being able to attend, at least for the time being, presents an opportunity in some ways, because I think there's been an over-reliance on those high-priced international tuition fees, as well as out-of-state students coming into SMC. And as part of my larger platform that the residents of Santa Monica and Malibu have not been at the center of the board's decision and of SMC's governing. As far as making up that lost revenue, we are transitioning. There's going to be many instructors who come out of this pandemic much more adept, myself being one of them. I had never taught online before the pandemic, and that will allow for more keystone courses to be taught online. Some of the vocational workforce retraining programs could be expanded in the online format. So it's a crisis, but also an opportunity.
Thanks, Brian. And now let's go to Susan.
Yeah, so the international students have been reluctant to attend, because of our situation in Washington, because they are afraid to attend, either because they will be harassed by the current administration, or the handling of COVID in this country has something to be desired, as we know. And so parents have been reluctant to send their students. My belief is that students that are international students will return once the administration in Washington changes. Let me just say, in reviewing the materials that are marketed to get international students to consider Santa Monica College, we are Harvard by the Sea, and we have a lot to offer these students, and those that are interested in transferring. Also, our proximity to UCLA makes this a very, very attractive place to begin studies.
Thanks, Susan. And finally, Margaret.
You know, this is supposed to be a debate, so I'm going to respond to something that one of the candidates said in reference to our international students. First of all, we've been very resourceful and very robust in making sure that our international students are contacted, that they're made sure that they're getting the sources that they need to be an international students. But our international students have not been a detriment to our local students. And I don't think it's a fair statement or an accurate statement to say that the local students have been neglected for our going out and searching international students. That is not true. Our local students, and even if you look now during the pandemic, a lot of families, because of economics and safety, have their students at Santa Monica College. And I consider that a big honor and a big entrustment. We have done everything in our part, not just Santa Monica, Malibu, for the County of Los Angeles to welcome students to Santa Monica College.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to give Brian 30 seconds to respond to that point, if you'd like.
Yeah, my response to that is I'm not saying anything negative about international students. I've led study abroad programs. I've taught abroad. I love the international diversity that having international students brings to any campus. My point is that there's been an overemphasis of that, and in the process, a neglecting of how the college can serve the needs of Santa Monica students, Santa Monica and Malibu residents. That's what's not been the priority for years.
Can I respond to
that? Do I have
that?
any response time as well?
Yeah, can we have response time to that?
Yeah, so let's dig in on this. So Susan, I saw you were up next. So Peter.
Yeah, me too.
And Margaret,
just to be clear,
Margaret, Rob, and I share the same value on this, and in fact, Rob collected some data recently that he's going to present. But what I'd like to say is we are at the forefront of taking care of Santa Monica High School students. I'd want to begin by saying my kids went to Franklin, Lincoln, and Samo, and both of them took courses at Santa Monica College, which saved me some tuition down the road. We have a robust program called dual and concurrent enrollment.
Thank you.
Rob, you'll present the
30
stats.
seconds. All right. So in 2018, we polled and we checked with the high school counselors. 58% of students had taken classes from their freshman year to 2 years after graduation from Santa Monica High School. So 58% of the graduates in 2017 had taken classes at Santa Monica College, either as a freshman through their 2 years after graduation. That's an enormous number. That is most of the students at Santa Monica High had taken, whether concurrent, dual enrollment, after high school. Secondly, the Chancellor's Office in 2015 did a poll of every community college. We were #1 in local participation of every community college district. This is a false opposition.
Thank you. Brian, did you have anything else you wanted to say? I'll just give you.
I wanted to counter that point, but I'll wait for permission from the chair.
Sure. I want to just give it to, since we're responding to Brian's point.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm being ganged up on by the three incumbents here. It's a little defensive. Santa Monica College, the reality is I'm not talking about just taking a course here and there. I'm talking about students getting to graduation, transferring from SMC to a UC or to a four-year college, getting their certificates. In terms of those numbers, the percentage of Santa Monica residents and Santa Monica students are very low. I mean, I keep seeing in the research I've done 4%, 5%.
So may I
Wait a
respond?
minute. Susan, I'm in the queue.
Oh, you're in the queue. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, you know, Mr. O'Brien, it's okay to have a philosophy and a statement, but I believe in having facts. And you're portraying facts that are totally erroneous. That may be your perception. That may be what you want to use as a campaign piece. We're not being defensive. We're professionals. We're professionals, and we're responding in a way that adults talk, and that is countering a statement that you're saying that is totally erroneous. We can show you the data. Have you looked at the data?
Time.
Have you ever taught at Santa Monica College?
Okay, thank you. And Brian's name was mentioned there, so I'm going to let him respond to that point.
I've been looking at the data. I'm in the process of researching. I'm a first-time candidate. You know, I have many years of, you know, being in political campaigns and supporting local causes, civic activities here in the city of Santa Monica. But the number I see repeated over and over is, as far as the number of Santa Monica residents at Santa Monica College, is 4 to 5%. I'm not saying that people don't take a class here or there. Rob Rader put out 58%. That's great, but that's normally a
Time.
class here.
Thank you. And Rob, did you want to respond to that point?
I will. We have programs, the Santa Monica Promise, which we give local high school students free tuition and free textbooks to attend Santa Monica College, and it's been enormously successful. We have a program, Young Collegians, which goes after historic student groups that have historically not attended college, especially African American and Latinx students at Santa Monica High School. It's a beautiful program, and they work throughout for all 4 years of their high school experience, and they spend time on the summer. We focus enormously on our local programs, and we work hand in glove with Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District.
Thank you. And let's go to Susan now.
I just wanted to add another fact to the discussion. And Mr. O'Neill, so sorry if you feel that we present a wall against you, but we're just trying to present with our experience what's actually going on the ground. We have a counselor who is dedicated to Santa Monica High School, who now spends her days at Santa Monica High School, acquainting students with the skills and abilities they're going to need to do college level work and encouraging enrollment.
Thank you. And does anyone else want to weigh in right now before we move on?
I'll give us all a break.
Okay, great. So let's go to the next question. Related
You
topic.
wanted a debate, John.
Now you're on to the debate.
Be careful what
Now
the
we've got
Democratic
it.
Club wishes for.
So the second question is about these international students themselves. And we know that many of these international students are afraid of deportation by Donald Trump due to his recent directive about students enrolled in online courses that was then overturned. But, you know, a lot of people get scared because of the uncertainty. So what can the college do to keep those students engaged with their education process through SMC during this uncertain period? And let's go to Margaret first.
Okay, I guess I want to flip the question. Our biggest concern are our DACA students. Our biggest concerns are our AB 540 students. With all due respect, we love our international students, but many of them have resources that our DACA students don't have. They're at any moment can be taken away from their families. Their parents can be taken away. We put into place legal resources. We fight we have DACA, a program called Allies, where they have somebody on campus who they can talk to. We need to concentrate that our students that are here and who are living in fear of losing their educational opportunity, of losing their families, and of losing their world that they only know here in the United States. They don't know it from their parents' homeland. And many of them, it's not to their fault that their immigration status is the way they are. But at Santa Monica College, they're going to be protected no matter what.
Thank you. And now let's go to Susan, you're next. Sorry.
Yeah, so reinforcing what Margaret was saying about our DACA students, in interviewing some DACA students, we find that many of them have sisters and brothers serving in the military, and they're feeling so under siege each and every day. But I want to differentiate between our DACA students and the California DREAM Act, which provided for our students and told them they could now apply for financial aid regardless of their immigration status. So this has been a big step forward in protecting them.
Okay, thank you. And now Rob.
I wanted to read something from some of our students that they gave us. And there was a Santa Monica College report on the CARES Act. And you know, students wrote some very poignant things. It will be a very sad moment to graduate and leave Santa Monica. After the US government has granted me political asylum, becoming a student at SMC was the best decision in my life. Another student, I thank you so much for all the support in this difficult time, from food pantry to this CARES Act relief. I'm holding tight with my shelter in place in LA while maintaining 5 classes online, and I will try my best to finish them strong. A third one, I love SMC so much, and the help that is being offered to us during this difficult time is astounding and refreshing. Margaret and Susan hit it right when they talked about the additional effort and work and money that we put into helping our DREAM Act students and our DACA students, who have been really our unsung heroes, and maintaining their ability to have hope and opportunity for their lives. And this is their big chance, and we cannot let COVID rob them of that opportunity for their own future.
Thank you. And let's go to Brian now.
I agree with most of what was just said. As far as protecting international students, there's a network across California among the community colleges, the public universities, you know, to defend their rights to be in the country during this time of the pandemic. And as far as DACA and DREAM Act recipients, I know there are similar programs and efforts, and by faculty members. I talk to DACA students of my own and get their insight of their situation, which, you know, hopefully things will change in Washington come November or next January. But it's all about information and being informed, and that's got to be the emphasis.
Thank you. So now we've heard from all 4 candidates. I'd like to go to another topic. How do you think that Santa Monica College can better integrate with the city government and the community? Do you think that, in relating to that question, that the current economic crisis could provide any opportunities for the students? And let's go to Rob first.
So,
John, you cut out and I didn't hear all the question.
Great. So let me say that again. How can SMC better integrate with Santa Monica city government and the greater community? And can the current economic crisis provide any opportunities for those students? Rob, go ahead.
Our workforce development program is one of the top in the state. We are the lead community college in the Strong Workforce program, and we are leading that in terms of trying to both determine where the jobs are going to be for the remainder of the 21st century, as well as then identifying programs and how to develop those programs to offer to students, and then marketing and outreaching to those students so that they end up in the jobs or they end up in the programs, and then measuring it to make sure that they end up in good jobs. We are a huge generator for economic opportunity, not just in Santa Monica, not just in the West Side, but regionally for all of LA County and Orange County. We are, again, the head agency for all 19 local community colleges in Los Angeles and Orange County. I went and personally visited the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, which is our lead vendor in terms of working with that consortium of 19 community colleges, because I wanted to make sure that they were spending the money appropriately and how they were handling it, because we are one of their biggest customers, and I wanted to make sure that the community was getting the bang for its buck.
Thank you. And now let's go to Brian.
I would echo a lot of what was just said on the workforce development programs, the vocational programs, job retraining programs at SMC are vital. And I would call for internships and other avenues whereby students from SMC could really get a foothold into local businesses and really shore up those ties between the college and local businesses and future employment, and have a part of that targeting underrepresented students to bring about equity, not just in the classroom, but later in the workforce.
Thank you. And now let's go to Susan.
Well, I know that members of the City Council love Santa Monica College as much as we do. And we have a joint project together, our Child Care Center. And so I think your question, John, was, does Santa Monica City government work jointly with Santa Monica College to provide for students? And the answer to that is yes. We are building this magnificent Child Care Center. And we will be opening it, we think, in the spring of 2021, which also is the time when we are hoping that we will be returning to campus. So although we don't know that for sure now, we are hoping that those faculty and staff that are working on our safe return will get us there, hopefully, for the spring semester.
Thank you. Let's go to Margaret.
I guess when I think of your question, I interpret it as a city as a whole, not necessarily the governance of it. I could go through a litany of lists of ways we do collaboration. I think the greatest collaboration that we've done and that we need to expand on that is with our concurrent enrollment. Meaning sometimes the school district cannot offer, because due to budgetary confinements, they can't do some of the arts. They can't do some other courses. We do those classes collaboratively with the Unified. We've had some employers that had employees that needed retraining. We partnered with those employers to help their employees to stay on the up-to-date skills that they needed. And during the COVID pandemic, we've worked with different municipalities to keep our employees, to keep our students from getting ill. And I just think that it
Time.
just,
Thank you.
it's hard.
And now we'll go to the next question. It's kind of a two-parter. I'm going to ask the first one, okay? And then I'm going to ask you about a couple follow-ups to just include in your answer. How would you address the issue of homeless students who attend SMC? And what I want to know, these are just two yes or no points that you can address in that answer. One is if you support making the parking lots on campus a safe sleep site for homeless students. And the second one is, do you support exploring the creation of dormitories to help house SMC students? And let's start with Brian on this one.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out, John. I didn't hear the second part.
The two follow-up questions on this to incorporate are, do you support making the parking lots a safe sleep site? And do you support exploring the creation of dormitories to help house students? And let's go to Brian first.
Yeah, the homelessness in our city and our region is a Gordian knot. Homelessness among students is particularly tragic. I do not support turning the parking lot into a sleep station. I live on the eastern edge of Santa Monica, and we've got homeless tent cities already springing up nearby. What I would propose is looking into housing students in local hotels where they're actually housed, not just sleeping in their car. That's really no solution. We shouldn't settle for that, if you will, in my opinion. And then as far as a dormitory, open to all proposals. It'd have to be, the old questions: where, how much would it cost, who would get to live there, and so forth. But definitely open to the idea of student dormitories. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's go to Susan.
So the idea of student housing on campus, particularly for homeless students in our garage, was looked at by the state legislature, and they rejected it. And so we are no longer looking at the question of whether we can house students in our garage. But it is important to recognize that there are many ongoing partnerships, and we are always seeking partners for homeless for our homeless students. We included it in our board goals and objectives for this year. I think it became abundantly clear to all of us in this round of interviews that's an important issue for the community. So we've included it, and we're going to be taking another look.
Thank you. Margaret?
We did, it was brought before the board about having the students be able to sleep in their cars in the parking lot. We explored the logistics. As we got through the logistics, we got the notification from the state that they were withdrawing that. One of the other things that we have done in lieu of that is that we supply Wi-Fi from our parking lots. So students who are homeless or who do not have Wi-Fi come to the SMC parking lot and they can get Wi-Fi. We provide food pantries, when we were on campus, and now drive-through where people can get food and fresh vegetables. And in terms of the dormitories, I do not support dormitories, and this is for this reason. I support using SMC's properties for building housing for employees and for low-income families. I will not engage in any practice that disenfranchises existing renters in Santa Monica. There's been enough gentrification going on.
Thank you. And Rob?
So on the issue of homeless students in the parking lots, we had grave concerns about public safety, and then the state took it off our plate. We do a lot for students in terms of, we offer them the legally required showers on campus. We do have our drive-through pantry reopened today, and it's the first drive-through pantry to our knowledge in the nation. We have certain programs for housing students, like Students for Students, which I believe our chair, Nancy Greenstein, who's here at this meeting, or was earlier, is on that board, where it has certain housing for Santa Monica College students. We've looked at housing. In fact, we hired the consultant that I referred to Santa Monica College from downtown Santa Monica, where I serve, and he came up with a concept document for us. We've looked at it. It would take a massive undertaking that we probably need to work with the city. We need to work with the school district. We need to work with the big employers to talk about what sort of housing we can use our land for, like Trustee Quinones-Perez says, and how we can figure out what makes sense for us as a community, not just for us and our workers and just our employees or just our students.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to closing statements. You each have 30 seconds. We'll start with Susan.
So with Rob and Margaret's permission, because we all have the same endorsements, I will read out our endorsements. We are endorsed by Santa Monica for Renters' Rights. We're endorsed by the Santa Monica Democratic Club, we hope. We are endorsed by the LA County Democratic Party. We are endorsed by the Community for Excellent Public Schools, and we are endorsed by the Santa Monica Board of Trustees. And so I believe that our endorsements—
Time.
Thank you. And Margaret?
I just want to say to the club members, I've been a club member for 28 years. I've been a resident here for 49 years. It's important for me and for my colleagues to have your endorsement. My values, the way we conduct ourselves, is a reflection of the Democratic Club. But more importantly, I believe that the way I take my entrustment with the issues at the college is a reflection of Santa Monica College, and also that it's a reflection of the Democratic Club.
Thank you. And Rob?
I'm the first member of my family to go straight through college. My father dropped out of Eastern Michigan. My mother dropped out of Michigan State to have a family, ultimately went back and got a teaching degree from Florida International University. They made real sacrifices for me to attend college and make a better life for myself. And that's why I originally ran for trustee at Santa Monica College, so that I could give back and pay it forward to students that attend our college. That's why I read those students' statements. And now that my children, my son started high school 2 weeks ago and my daughter started middle school, it's for them to be able to improve their lives through education as well.
Thank you, Rob. And now let's go to Brian.
Thank you all for having me tonight. This has been great. We're all Democrats here. I don't have any of the big name endorsements. My new adopted dog Stella gives me 2 thumbs up. But I just want to say, you know, I'm doing this because I'm a committed, invested resident of Santa Monica. If elected, I will really push for a good neighbor policy to really shore up the links between the college, the neighborhood surrounding all the different college facilities, and always have that in the front of my mind, along with helping faculty, staff, and students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to just take a moment to thank all 4 candidates. Those are really great discussion.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you
Thanks
for the
so much.
executive committee's reference.
We'll be taking up the vote in just a little bit, but first we're going to go to our